One of my favorite parts of the Glass House is hearing from the customer. Whenever we put that out there, president@lifeway.com, people email us and tell us what they think. I feel like 9 times out of 10, it's a pastor's wife.
Mm-hmm. We just got one yesterday.
Yes, we did. Pastors' wives are uniquely interested in this conversation about life in the Glass House. And recently, you got to sit down with one of the most delightful pastors' wives we've met, Wright.
Right.
And
I said right.
Right. Correct.
Correct.
Accurate. It was just a great conversation that the two of you had. You guys talked about some of her uncomfortable moments in ministry. You talked about her call when Bryant came home and told her that he was called to ministry out of the business world.
Well, what happened was that we interviewed Bryant Wright and his successor. And so that interview actually just was aired recently. But while we were doing that interview, Angie, our producer, and I thought we should interview Ann. It would be really interesting to hear her perspective on it because there were a lot of challenges and they were in ministry for 38 years and then suddenly they went to more of a denominational work.
We cannot have enough conversations with just pastor's wife telling their story, telling the struggles, and telling the high points of ministry. So I think if you're out there and you're a pastor's wife, you're going to particularly enjoy this episode. And if you're a pastor, it may give you some insight on what it's like to be her on the other side of this.
All right, so we are recording live at the SBC, so you'll hear some of the background noise. But with me is Ann Wright. And introduce yourself just a little bit. Tell our audience about you.
Okay, my name is Ann Wright. I've been married to Bryant Wright at the end of this summer, 50 years.
50 years?
Yes, 50 years. The mother of 3 grandsons, grandmother to 7, and the mother to 2 four-legged living beings that people call dogs, but they're my babies.
Oh, no, we have 2 of those that were the same.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so where do you guys live now?
We live in Marietta, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta.
Okay.
We just call the whole metro area Atlanta. You know, there's Atlanta, and then there's Georgia. If you're from Georgia, you say Georgia, but if you're from Atlanta, you'll never say Georgia. That's just the way that goes. Yeah, and we've been there for over 42 years.
Really?
Yes, in that same community.
Okay, well, that makes sense. So yesterday, Ben and I were interviewing Bryant and his successor, Clay Smith. Yes. And Bryant was talking about how he had been at Johnson Ferry for 38 years and gone through transition. And you were sitting in the room, and myself, our producer, Angie, were sitting there. I know we were thinking the exact same thing, like we need to interview her about all the things.
She got some stories to
well,
tell.
yeah, I mean, so you've been in ministry 40 plus years. And I mean, you've seen so many things change. You've changed yourself. Like one thing that Ben and I have really learned is that our personalities change as we get older and our levels of exhaustion and all those things. And so I just wanted to interview you and just kind of hear your call to ministry, maybe some lessons you've learned, maybe some mistakes you've made, just to help the younger generation. The whole point of this podcast, when it's just one-on-one with a pastor's wife, is to say, if you're new coming out of seminary, if you're starting your ministry journey, let us tell you some things that we've learned along the way that maybe you didn't learn in seminary. So maybe you want to start off with your call.
So there are those things. So to begin with, I did not marry a minister, nor did I marry someone planning to go into ministry.
Okay.
I met Bryant when he was graduating from the University of South Carolina, and I had just finished my second year. We fell quickly in love and married within the year. He graduated. He was in business. He was in sales of industrial chemical supplies.
Wow.
And so we moved to Augusta, Georgia. I transferred from the all-girls school where I was going when I met him to Augusta College. I graduated with a degree in social work. What does one do with a degree in social work when you do not have years of experience or a graduate degree? Absolutely nothing.
You go on to get a therapy degree.
Well,
or something.
Actually, sociology is the study of families and institutions, which I think has served me well in the years of what God had for me that I did not even know at the time. When I graduated from college, I got a job at a bank, and Bryant was doing business, and he traveled within a couple of hours of Augusta, Georgia every day, calling on factories, hospitals, institutions. We taught 8th graders in Sunday school, and I didn't realize how much fulfillment he was getting in that. And he often would say, I can't believe the company pays me to sell soap to these industries when really all I want to do is talk to the people I'm selling to. I want to talk to them about their faith. He said, eventually the company's going to catch on that I'm selling Jesus on their time.
Huh.
We would laugh about
It's getting
that.
paid to, yeah.
Yeah, we would laugh about that. And one day he came home and said, I think God's calling me in the ministry, and I thought I'd been run over by a Mack truck. And I thought, I think I know
I
him
don't
well
feel
enough. If
that.
I just humor him in this, it'll go away soon. And he started talking more, and he began pursuing seminary, which meant leaving Augusta. I wasn't that in love with Augusta, but I was in love with our life.
Yeah.
He was doing great, and he was on the track of, promotions and those kind of things. And he's talking about leaving Augusta, packing up everything we own, and moving to Louisville, Kentucky to go to school, give away our dog, and move. I'm like, okay, and I'm still praying, Lord, I'm going to just humor him in this. It's going to go away. And it didn't go away. And I found myself this is going to age me, but it was the January after Jimmy Carter was elected president. We're moving into a little tiny apartment, unrenovated apartment in Louisville, Kentucky at Southern Seminary.
Well, you did already say you've been married 50 years.
I did say that, so it kind of gave me away, didn't it? Okay.
So everybody, she's over 60.
Yeah, at least. So, but we moved in January, and he wasn't starting classes until the spring semester. So, he still worked from up there. He just moved his business. They let him work from up there, and I thought life hadn't changed that much. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, he's a seminary student, and I realized somebody was going to have to support us. So I got a job at an oil company. I left before the sun came up, and I didn't get home until after it was dark. And I hated seminary.
Yeah.
Because, this was our life.
Right.
And then we got the word that they were interviewing for summer missions. And I thought, here's my out. We can leave Louisville if we get accepted to go to summer missions. Well, somehow I got through the interview process, and we got accepted to go to Scotland. And I thought, yes, cush job. This is going to be great. We're going to Scotland. They speak our language. This isn't going to be hard. No, they didn't speak our language. It was on the far north coast, and but I'm still, I still haven't experienced a call of the Lord on my life.
You have not.
I'm married at that point.
Yeah.
I'm just married to a man who's in business, who's now, taken us on this journey to seminary. But through that summer that we spent in Scotland, I realized there were a few things that were true. I might be miserable in where I was living, and we were. We were in a little small 13 by 9 foot trailer with no heat, and it was cold. The sun never went down. We had 3 hours of darkness. It's that far north.
Yeah.
So the seagulls would tap dance on the roof of this little trailer at like 3 in the morning. And the water's cold and all those things, but people are the same.
Yes.
And I fell in love with the people. So sometime during that summer of doing stuff with children and doing stuff with youth and visiting in people's homes, I heard God's voice say to me, all I've called you to do, Ann, is love me and love Bryant because you're married to him, and love the people that I put in front of you, and it's going to be fine. So we went back to seminary at the end of that summer with me having a changed heart. There was a call on my life that I could get my mind around. I didn't have to go and be somebody's version of some pastor's wife. I hadn't really had good pastor's wife people in my life in my childhood. Wasn't anything I aspired to.
Yeah.
But at the end of that summer, I had a new focus that just do life, and it'll be fine. And so that kind of has defined my role as a pastor's wife. That my ministry is to love God, love Bryant, and love whoever God puts in front of me.
So yesterday, Bryant said that you are a pastor of the hallway.
He does call me that.
And maybe we should say director of the hallway to be careful here. But you're loving people in the hallway. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
So tell me what he's saying by that.
Well, I think it's the ministry of availability. I think I do better without a program or an agenda to run. I do better as a greeter and meter of people, show interest in them. Sometimes in the hallway, there's a real quick, how you doing, and they really give you an answer.
Yes.
And I love the availability to just stop and, can I just pray for you right now?
Right then.
Right now. And sometimes that saves him a long counseling appointment that he doesn't feel adequate for or know the background of, or, neither of us are trained counselors, but a quick prayer in the hallway can often take care of a lot of things, and
Yes.
it shows that we care, which says to them he cares.
Yes. So would it be common for you, if you had to miss a sermon or miss a thing, to be in the hallway really working or talking with somebody, praying with them? Is that
It would not be common for me to miss a sermon.
okay?
We
but maybe
both-
not be there for the first song.
Rarely was I there for the first song.
Okay.
I chose to be in service in the preschool. Those were my people group.
Yeah.
That was my people group for about 31 years. I chose to be in the earliest service. There were 3 services going on at 2 different venues. Lots of moving parts at Johnson Ferry during those days. Still is. But I chose to be there early because I could get there on time. But from that, leaving that classroom that first hour to my next wherever it might be, I was free to be stopped, and people knew that. And so it did kind of become a joke. There was one kind of punctual deacon that manned the door that I came in, and he'd go, "Oh, there's the pastor's wife late again." First 2 or 3 times he said it, I kind of wanted to slap him, but I realized that was just him, and people are going to say what they're going to say,
Yes.
and I knew what I'd been doing,
Yeah.
and that it had value.
Did
in
people
people's
notice,
lives.
seek you out in the hallway, or did you just kind of not you didn't put your head down and rush through? You just
I didn't put my head down and rush through, but I didn't wear a name tag saying I'm Ann Wright. And
Yes.
by this time the church had grown to maybe 8,000 people, and I'm just the lady that holds their babies. They didn't know necessarily who I was. It was not uncommon for me to have a child dropped off to me 6 weeks or longer before the young couple would say, "Oh my gosh,
You're the
I
pastor's
just realized that the woman that's been changing my baby's diaper is married to the man that led me to Christ last week." And, I think there's a story in that.
We had the same experience. So I was the director of kids ministry at Storyline, and there were
Were
people
you?
after a while who were like, "Wait, are you Pastor Ben's
Like
wife?"
Mandrell.
I know,
There's-
because we weren't sitting in there together for the
Sure.
service they would be in, and they just didn't put it together. And I'm like, yes, I'm here, and I love kids, and I loved the parents of the kids. That was my thing. It was just, I
Me
felt
too,
like if the
Lindley.
parents and the volunteers were loved well, then they loved the babies and the kids really, really well. But in our current
Exactly.
church, we're holding babies. So, that's what we like to do. Yeah.
Well, and here's the truth. If the mom and dad are comfortable leaving their baby, they'll continue to come.
Yes.
And that's very important. We followed Storyline's history and journey and growth, and it was very much like Johnson Ferry in the early days. It grew by leaps and bounds so fast.
Yeah.
That there's no way you could get to everybody. When we first went, and it was 20 families meeting in a doctor's office, everybody had been in our home. We had been in most of their homes. We knew their children, we knew their pets, but as it grew, we realized that there were going to be groups we wouldn't get to know, but we wanted to concentrate on. I wanted to concentrate on the young couples that were coming in, and through their babies was the easiest way. And now those babies are married. I've had some of their babies.
Having babies.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've had some of my babies' babies in my class. That's one of the things I miss a little bit. Well, more than a little bit
Of
now
course.
that he's still preaching after he retired from Johnson Ferry, but I don't have a place of service that I know the families and the
hard.
children and you know this about babies, if you're not in their life every week, they're not going to give you that
Yes.
smile and love
Yes.
that I need.
Yes, for sure.
Yes.
So talk to me about, you've been in ministry for 40 plus years. Surely along the way, there were some lessons you've learned, good or bad, or mistakes you've made. I mean, talk to the audience a little bit about some things that
Okay.
you think, man, I love the way I saw God move here, or I wish I would have done this different, or take it any way you want to.
Okay. Well, I think I had to get a little bit of, I had to grow a little discernment.
Yeah.
Because when you're a people person that wants to love everybody, you want to assume that everybody's got the same motives you've got. And had to grow a little bit of wisdom there. Not everybody that wanted to get to know me wanted to get to know me for myself. Many people had an ulterior motive, wanting to get next to him. That could be people in the church. It could be staff people. It could be people from outside the church that sought me out. Maybe they'd been trying to get to him about an idea and couldn't get an appointment with him, but if they could take me to lunch and get their idea in my head, then I would talk to him. That old-fashioned term of pillow talk
Yes.
is powerful. So I had to grow a little depth of discernment there. And then I had to realize, too, that the people that are my really close friends would not try to be my close friends in a large group setting. That if somebody that I could really trust in their friendship, they didn't need to be seen with me. They didn't need to be sitting by me in church. They were content with where they were in a relationship, and I appreciated those friendships, both in the congregation and on the staff. Those that I was the closest to didn't need to be glued to my side.
Do you have a story of that you can remember or share about when you realized, wait a minute, that person, their heart's not pure here. They're trying to get to Bryant, and I thought they were here for me.
Yeah, there was a time when there was I'm not a real I don't need to be up front, don't want to be up front, and I'm not going to be a director of programs. We've established that, but a lot of pastors' wives are. A lot of them are more go-getters than their husbands are. So I was in a setting with a neighboring pastor's wife, and I was just amazed at how friendly she was to me and how the amount of time that she was spending with me. And I even thought to myself, we really don't have the same agenda, but she seems to really like me. But she had a program, a plan, a thing that it came about after
Okay, and then
several.
you began to realize it.
Yeah, and when I couldn't deliver from him what she wanted, she didn't need me anymore.
Oh,
It's a little painful.
that's
but-
hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
Anything else that you can think of?
Yeah, I want to tell you one of my biggest failures, and this was it was hard because as when you start a church from scratch, you and Ben know this, you get to pull in your own staff, and so you're building a team that becomes more like family than staff. We didn't have to inherit people that we couldn't work with, and so this precious couple came to work for Bryant. And Bryant really gelled with him. He had come from the same area of Atlanta where we were. He was perfect in the community. His wife was darling. They didn't have children, but she was, more like a sister to me. But after a few years of them being on staff with us, we realized he had a very serious bipolar situation that was fine when it was medicated, but not fine when he was off his meds. And then she developed a very chronic autoimmune kind of, he called her the walking chemistry experience because of all the medications she needed. And he needed to be medicated. And she had become, like I said, like a sister to me.
Yeah.
So as I listened to her problems, I became such an advocate for her, and oh, what a problem he is. And Bryant loved him like a son and listened to his problems and became such an advocate for him. And it became to a source of tension in our marriage. We realized that their problems had become toxic in our relationship. He ultimately resigned and moved on to something else. They ultimately divorced. Her problems were too big for him to, and vice versa. But it was a huge wake-up call to us in getting involved deep in the weeds of somebody else's story where we're not equipped. We were not equipped in the counseling level or understanding the medical level, and it was painful because we both loved them both so much, but one conversation could spin us into just a toxic
Yes.
place.
Yeah.
And it was not necessary for them or us. They had other resources.
So if you were redoing that, if you met that couple now, what would you do differently?
I would understand my boundaries more. I would still love her. I would still love him. But I would realize that I could not be as available to her. It took me into a place that I just was not equipped for.
I find that a lot in ministry, in that pastors are expected to be counselors, and we don't have the training for it. Sometimes, some do, but sometimes we don't, and it's helpful to be able to say, I would love to hear your story. I'd love to keep it confidential. I'd love to pray for you, but you really need to get some help from someone who can help you
That's so good,
with
Lindley.
what's actually going on.
And that really is more or less the approach I take now. We're just walking through something, he's no longer the pastor, but he still gets calls. And we're walking through something with a friend that we care about very deeply. But it's easier now to know when to say, this is very painful for me to hear from you. I'm going to pray, and I'm going to do my best to refer you to someone that really is trying to help you. And let's stay in touch about how I can pray. But it doesn't need to be in that situation. I just let it
Yeah.
take me too far.
Well,
in.
I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, so many people get wrapped up into your relationship because you're called to pastor and care for
Yeah.
these people, and so you want to, and then it's kind of like, wait a minute, I'm in something over my head.
And as the church grows, when the church was smaller, there was more space for me to take on every people group. But the church grows larger, and you just cannot
can't.
take on every people group within the congregation
Yeah.
to the level that you would like to.
So I'm going to turn the tide on you just a little bit. So you take this church through 38 years. Bryant talks about he's looking into a succession plan. You have a call. You just talked about it. You have a call to mission ministry. So how do you feel when he says that? I mean, it's scary.
Yes. Well, when he first started talking about it, my immediate response was, I think he's really tired.
Okay.
And I think he needs a vacation, and it's a good thing. It's coming up to vacation time. Got through vacation, and he hadn't done him any good. And so it was time for sabbatical. Then, we take 10 weeks away to pray, and he's going to dream for, visions and goals for the next 10 years. And he came back saying, I got nothing. This is part of why I know that God's telling me to release this church. All of my 10-year goals have been met. And I nearly imploded because I really thought this man has a lot of leadership. And if you go back, what he said on the podcast yesterday was exactly true. It's like
What did he
this
say?
laser. It's like this laser high beam that's not a laser high beam. This broad high beam that is shining on a whole field, and it's about to focus in and become a laser. And you know what a laser does? It can kill you.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want all of that leadership that was on that high, broad thing to be lasered in. I did not want to be the focus of
You
all
don't
of
want to be
his
led by him.
leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't need that. This morning, as we got ready to walk out of the hotel room, he said, you didn't drink that cup of coffee you just fixed. You need to drink it before you walk downstairs. I said, I don't need your leadership in when to drink a cup of coffee.
Yes. Ben and I got to a fight one day, and he was like, let me help you. And I was like, I don't want you to help me. Like, I want you to love me. I want you to pray for me. But, because what he was trying to help me was in a way that I was like, this is not the role. Like,
Lindley,
just love me.
It's the plight of every woman who's married to a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Men want to fix things.
Yes.
But men that are pastors by nature are leaders of people. They're shepherds. They think that if someone comes to them with a problem, all they have to do is give the solution, and it's taken care of. And I finally told him, I don't always want you. Could you just sometimes go, oh.
I'm like, I'm not your project. I don't want to be
Yeah.
your project.
And you know what his answer to me has been on that? Don't you have some girlfriends that can listen to you like that? I thought you wanted me to fix it. No, I don't want you to fix it.
Okay, so all the focus is about to be on you.
All the focus
You're about
is
to
about
panic.
to be on me. And I just thought, he's going to need something to do
Yeah.
because he's not a handyman. There's nothing
Yeah.
in the house that he loves to do but read books and mow the grass.
Oh, my
And
gosh,
you know
he
why he
sounds like
loves
so
to
much
mow
like
the
Ben.
grass? You know why he loves to mow the grass?
Because he can like preach to the grass.
No,
That's what Ben
no,
does.
it's that's precious. But no, he said in the ministry you don't see results immediate, but when he mows that grass with every row, accomplishment.
Yes, I did know that.
Accomplishment.
So Ben likes to vacuum and mow because we have 2 golden retrievers. There's a lot of hair. He's like, so I'll
Every
vacuum
day.
because I can see the hair be picked up.
There you go.
I'm like, well, go clean a bathroom because they're
There you
gross. He's
go.
like, I can't see that.
So yesterday on the podcast, Bryant said that we were on our way to our last week of vacation. As he was leaving, his last week of Johnson Ferry was going to be in August. We were leaving this last week of July vacation. And I said to him, what are you going to do when you retire? He said it much meaner than I did. I really just said, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
But what I meant was, what are you going to do with
Yeah.
your time? And he said, I don't know, but I hope it's something with missions. And it's true. Paul Chitwood called him within 10 minutes of us pulling up to the vacation rental house. He's still going inside with suitcases, and he's holding the cell phone, that little computer. He's holding the cell phone saying, it's Paul Chitwood on the phone talking to me about a job. So God provided. And immediately,
But how did you feel?
Well, I was a little bit relieved that
Okay,
he was going to
okay.
have something to do with his leadership ability. I'm
yes.
like, yes,
Gives you some freedom.
something for you to do,
Okay.
something for you to lead.
Yes, yes.
But here's the thing that I didn't know. He was going to lead in a corporate entity of the Southern Baptist Convention that is related to churches and involving churches, but it's not a church. And so life as I had known it for 38 years as the pastor of a church, and my relationship with the staff and the people because of who we were together, did not translate into life in an entity immediately.
Of course.
And I wanted it to.
Yes.
I
Well, it's
thought,
all you know.
yeah, it's all I know. Yeah. I thought we'll have a little retreat and we'll bring the staff and, they'll immediately love it. But that's not what staffs do. But so here's what I've learned in that. It's in the local church, whether you want to admit it or not, it's a little bit about position. People seek you out because of your position. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted it to be because of relationships and personality. But in the Southern Baptist corporate life, it's always going to be, they're not going to seek me out because of the position, but the relationship. So really nothing's changed. It's still love the people that God puts in front of me. And if I love them, even if it's a short period of time, there will be the beginning of a relationship. The next time we see them, there'll be a connection.
Yes.
The next time we see them, it'll grow a little. It's not going to be as rapid
Yep.
as I would like it to be, but it happens.
I totally understand.
You get it
I get
better
that.
than most,
I get
my
that.
friend.
Yes. I just think, I'm just learning that like every season doesn't have to be my favorite. And there's change and there's good change and there's hard change and there's all these things. So you just have to kind of go with the flow, which is not my personality, but with wisdom and maturity comes a realization that it doesn't have to be my preference all the time.
That's right. Well, let's talk about this, Lindley. It's having planted Storyline, and Bryant planted Johnson Ferry, then for him to come in and start new things at Sandra Leave, you and Ben are starting new things at Lifeway. It's similar in so many
Very
ways.
similar, yes.
It's just a different avenue.
Yes.
In the call. And I was thinking about this morning because I knew you were going to ask me things about being a pastor's wife, and I would have never said to you I felt called to be a pastor's wife, but I was called to ministry by virtue of the fact of being called to marry Bryant, and he's in ministry. So for that to change from Johnson Ferry to Send Relief, and who knows, we're still young at this game. It could change again.
Right.
So I just need to be ready to not hold too tightly to anything we're doing. Early on at Johnson Ferry, we were there 38 years. Early on, Bryant would say, I hope the Lord allows us to stay here 10 years. Gosh, wouldn't that be great if we could stay 10 years? And then after 10, it was like, wow, he's let us do that. Wonder how long he would allow us to stay. Not every ministry is going to be that long tenured.
Yeah.
But it's where we are in the moment.
Yes. Well, this has been super helpful. We're wrapping up here. Let me know, has anybody ever told you like one piece of advice that you have just held on to, or one saying? It doesn't have to be ministry. It could be your grandmother. It can be anybody. I'm putting you on the spot here.
You are putting me on the spot.
So you may not have one, and that's totally fine.
Bryant really said it yesterday. His mother was the best about, we were laughing about her saying, don't get the big head.
Yes.
She always felt like you needed to look out for the person who's not seeking the attention. And I think I've never consciously done that, but it has been said by people on our staff that have watched me do things, that have pointed out, you looked for the person in the room that was not talking to anybody and sought them out and engaged them, and their face came alive. So I think I'm probably hearing Beth Wright's voice in my ear saying, look out for the one that's not as engaged.
That's great. That's a great ending. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Lindley.
Yes,
Thank
we
you for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Making time here.
The Glass House is executive produced by Angie Elkins, edited and engineered by Donnie Gordon with help from Nathan Howard. Show notes and production help from Nikki Ogden. Photography by Emily Bergeron and Bailey Watley. Recorded at the Lifeway Podcast Studio in Brentwood, Tennessee.